50 new homeless encampments in Toronto, now a total of 256 of them in the biggest city in the country. Why is it that the more they spend, the more Canadians hurt?
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a jam-packed show here. We've got some House of Commons clips. We've got Jonathan Wilkinson blowing a gasket. We got Freeland, who looks like she's drunk or I don't know what's going on. We've got the Conservatives moving to throw Greg Fergus out of his speaker position. They want to dethrone him, which is holding up everything in the House. Let's jump into this. First off, let's dive into the Greg Fergus situation. About a week ago, I made a video about him where he had released that email that was very unparliamentary for a speaker with such partisan language, basically criticizing Pierre Poilievre, which he shouldn't have done. And now the Conservatives are trying to throw him out. Here's the update.
House of Commons, where the Deputy Speaker has found that Speaker Greg Fergus did break the rules when partisan language was used last week in an ad for an event in his riding. Conservatives are now asking the House of Commons to vote to remove Fergus as Speaker.
The fact is that the Speaker has a very, very, very long history of partisan liberal political activity. Look, I've played a number of sports, and from time to time you get frustrated with the referee. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when the call comes to your favor, you're happy, and when it doesn't, then of course you claim that they're favoring the other side. But this Speaker, I believe, has done it consistently in this House.
The CBC's Karina Roman joins us now in the studio. Okay, so Karina, we heard the Conservatives there, but where are things at right now when it comes to the future of Greg Fergus?
Well, he actually seems safe because we just got word from the NDP that they would not be supporting this motion that Workington is putting forward to get the House to vote to remove him. So yes, the Conservatives in the bloc are on side. They've said they've lost confidence. Well, the Conservatives a long time ago, the bloc also. But if the NDP follow through with what they're saying, it doesn't look like Fergus is going to lose his job. But right now in the House, debate continues on this motion.
It's so weak. Jagmeet just only cares about his pension. He's not going to do anything that threatens that golden $2.3 million pension. Everything he does is just pointed directly at that. He's such a spineless, toothless fool.
Though it doesn't seem to, at this point, upset the future of Greg Fergus as Speaker, it is holding up business in the House. Nothing can go forward that they want to get passed, and tick, 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 the end of month is coming soon. That business is all held up as long as they want to debate this motion, even if now the outcome of this motion is known.
Okay.
We have another year and a half, or maybe a little bit less now, before the next election, to remain Speaker all that time, when in the short period that he's been Speaker, having the number of incidents, whether it's appearing in that video for the outgoing Ontario Liberal leader in his robes, we know that was a problem. Then that's where things really started, or the fundraiser for which he ended up having to pay a fine and apologize. And so it does seem to be adding up. You have to wonder, the next one, if there is a next one, how much more room is there for people to say, oh, well, it was a mistake, or we still have confidence in the Speaker? I mean, I can't imagine. It would have to be pretty egregious for the Liberals to drop their support of him.
That's outrageous. Like, even under the 3 strikes rule, he would already be out. He's already had 3 strikes. Like, the situation is ridiculous. Next up, they got a panel here. Can you guess which one supports who?
Are you surprised he found a breach of privilege here, even though it was the party that says they put the language in and not the Speaker himself acting in a partisan way?
No, it doesn't surprise me, because you still have to hold responsibility for these things. We've seen cases of privilege in the past where similar situations have arose, and the complaint is found to be an actual case of privilege. I'm thinking of both Greg Fergus and the Liberal Party here, and it reminds me of that Sideshow Bob episode where it keeps stepping on rakes, except for the fact that it seems like the Speaker and the Liberal Party have placed the rakes there themselves, continuing to cause these issues.
Yeah, look, Carleen, I think there's probably a consensus that if Speaker Fergus had actually put that language in himself and it was proof, he's fired immediately, right? Like, you just can't do that and be Speaker. The party says it did it, but he has to wear it and live with it, and now the Deputy Speaker has ruled against him. I mean, how tenable is this?
There's no question in anybody's mind, Liberal, Conservative, NDP bloc, or anywhere else, I don't think that Greg Fergus as a person is somebody who is a fairly upstanding person of great integrity, but one who happens to have stepped on quite a few rakes, to use Gary's analogy. I think that in this case, what's interesting is, a finding of privilege means that members of Parliament and the House of Commons privilege has been breached, regardless of whether the person who is responsible for that intended to do that or not. And that's why I'm not necessarily surprised that we did see this finding. It doesn't imply or find that Greg Fergus himself was responsible, but regardless, the damage is done, right? It weakens the confidence that the House of Commons as a whole may have in the Speaker's ability to hold the House together and to rule impartially.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's just an absolute joke. We've got this guy who clearly is a loyal Liberal, Trudeau bootlicker as the Speaker. Fergus needs to stand up and take responsibility. None of these Liberals can do that. They don't take responsibility for anything. I mean, look at the scandals we got going on. We got Randy Balson out, a corporation with a numbered corporation that he thought no one would find the name of it. We've got Arrive Scan. We've got Asian Infrastructure Bank. We've got Guilbeault questioned recently where he basically admits that they're not collecting data, and the data they do get is 2 years delayed. Like,
am I reading you right that you think his continuation as Speaker is not a tenable situation? I mean, is it at that point in your view?
I would hope not, because I think a disruption and another selection of a new Speaker is probably more disruptive. I think what the House probably needs to hear at this point is from Speaker Fergus himself, not just in his...
I think Fergus needs to be chucked out onto the street for not conducting himself in a proper manner in the House. Canadians need someone unbiased, not a Liberal bootlicker.
I think for the NDP, it makes more sense to maintain the status quo and focus on issues that they can, advocate on behalf of Canadians rather than something that is entirely internally focused. So I think it makes sense. I don't think it's a tacit approval of the behaviors. I think that those are pretty clear cut that he has stepped on many rakes. It's my favorite Simpsons episode, so I love that reference. But it's not good politics to spend any time there.
Yeah, Rob, I got a text from the NDP saying they see this as the Conservatives is trying to tie up pharmacare and the other things they want on their agenda. They don't want supply and confidence to work. They don't want that stuff to get through, so they're not going to take the bait and give the Conservatives what they want. I mean, how do you think people see it?
I think they should see it in a couple of ways. First of all, the Liberals have lost some leverage about what they can bring in terms of legislation in the scant few weeks that are left before they recess for the summer. Number one, there's a practical effect that way. The other practical effect, I mean, we've referenced the sacred fire of wisdom when it comes to The Simpsons as political guidance. But I also think of Worldwide Wrestling Federation and Bobby the Brain Heenan, who liked a sneak flying head scissors from time to time against his opponents. What the practical effect of all of this is the unruliness that we've seen in the House of Commons, which is unedifying, as well as, I think, unproductive, unfruitful for all sides, is only going to get worse. As long as Mr. Fergus is there, he is contested by a large swath of the people in the House of Commons. It just guarantees us that the toxicity is going to get worse. It's going to endure.
The reason there's toxicity is because the government is toxic and is hurting the people. That's why. There wouldn't be any of this if there wasn't government scandal after scandal after scandal. I mean, you've got China money, you've got the lab leak, you got, there's too many of them to list off. And the fact that other lady with the weird haircut saying that she doesn't think the NDP approves of this, but they're still supporting them. No, if you vote for something, you approve of it. You're at least supporting it on some fact. Jagmeet needs to find his spine and actually vote against something for once. But golden pension, he wants that bling. He wants a nice, easy life on our backs. Next up, let's jump into question period here. So we've got Pierre Poilievre and Chrystia Freeland going at it, and then we've got Wilkinson and a couple other clips.
After 9 years, this Prime Minister, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, is not worth the cost of mortgages, 76% of which will become more expensive over the next 3 years, according to the federal banking regulator, OSFI. This after the Prime Minister said rates would stay low for long. We know that his massive government deficits have driven rates up 2 percentage points higher than they otherwise would be, according to Scotiabank. So will he accept my common sense dollar-for-dollar plan to cap spending and cut waste to bring down interest rates so Canadians keep their homes?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we know the truth. The Conservatives don't actually care about Canadians who are struggling to pay their mortgages. And we know that because when we put forward something very concrete to support those Canadians, the strengthened Canadian Mortgage Charter, they refuse to support it.
She's completely lost her mind. Like, what? We have more tent cities in Canada than Canada's ever seen in history. And she has the gall to say that.
The fact is, the only thing these Conservatives know how to do is cut, 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 and the only Canadians they care about are themselves.
Wow.
Speaker, we have voted against everything this Prime Minister has done to balloon the cost of living of Canadians, to increase food bank use by 50% over 3 years, to send 1/4 of all young people to the food bank in 3 months alone, 1/4 of all Canadians skipping meals because they cannot afford a home, a 38% increase in homelessness since 2019. 50 new homeless encampments in Toronto, now a total of 256 of them in the biggest city in the country. Why is it that the more they spend, the more Canadians hurt?
Here, here, here.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives when it comes to supporting the most vulnerable Canadians. The fact is, when we formed government and when they left government, the poverty rate in Canada was 14.5%. It is now 9.9%.
Where do they get these numbers? Just go in the streets. You can go in any city and it's just full of tents. We have a noticeable percentage of the population living in tents in the streets.
The only thing they know how to do is cut, cut, cut. Tory times are hard times, Mr. Speaker.
Wow.
We know how to cut taxes, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we reduced poverty and had affordable homes 9 years ago when common sense Conservatives were in government. Since that time, housing costs have doubled, mortgage payments have doubled, rent has doubled. The number of homeless encampments in Canada is up by hundreds of percent. We now have 1 in 4 Canadians skipping meals because they can't afford the cost of food. Will the government finally stop the policies that make Canadians poor, get off the backs of the working people, and let Canadians keep their homes?
It's just crazy, the numbers there. So 76% of mortgages are coming up for renewal by 2026, I believe. So it's like you have a large majority of Canadians at risk of defaulting and losing their home. That's how bad this situation is. Those mortgage renewals are like an absolute nail in the coffin. When somebody's paying, say, $1,500 a month, and then that renewal comes up and now it's $3,500 a month, they're screwed. So you're going to see a huge dump of houses go onto the market. And then sadly, what you're going to see is probably big businesses like BlackRock and Vanguard come in and scoop up all those houses and then rent it back to Canadians for huge profits. We need laws that ban corporations from owning houses in Canada. That should be put in tomorrow. We also need a law that anyone named Trudeau is not allowed to be in government ever again. Add in a few of these other names too, Freeland and Bolsonaro, Guilbeault, Fraser.
Mr. Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we know what the Conservatives really believe and what they really do. When this leader was in government, how many homes did he actually get built? 6, Mr. Speaker. Just 6 homes.
What a bunch of lies.
Conservatives do to programs that support the most vulnerable. Cut, cut, cut.
No
no doubt we will cut the carbon tax scam that will leave more money in Canadians' pockets. And she wants to talk about a food program. That food program has no food in it. The only thing these guys have been feeding over the last 9 years is the already obese government. What common sense conservative governments are going to do is we're going to axe a tax for good. Why don't they just call a carbon tax election so we can show them how it's done anyways?
The Honourable...
They're too cowardly to do it.
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Mr. Speaker, well, I'm glad that folks in this House are finally being honest. He's actually saying, Mr. Speaker, just ignore the facts. Ignore the facts, make it all up. At the end of the day, 8 out of 10 families get more money back. Every reputable authority actually says that. It's only the Conservatives who campaigned on the basis of putting in a price on pollution, who've now changed their mind, have no plan for climate except to let the planet burn, would take a position like that.
Wilkinson's blowing a gasket here, man. Look at that drama class. Look at all these idiots just hamming it up. Oh yeah, just really dig in and wave your hand around. This guy accuses the Conservatives of lying and then proceeds to lie right afterwards with the 8 out of 10 garbage we've heard a million times before.
They want to actually cut the infrastructure funding that municipalities need to get more homes built. And they want to put the tax back on purpose-built rental construction.
What is going on with her hair here? Like, what? She is so wacky. Is she hitting the bottle? What's going on here? She hitting some of that nose flour?
They don't have a plan, Mr. Speaker. We do.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years as NDP Liberal government, Canadians are in trouble. On Thursday, we learned from an OSFI risk report that Canadian homeowners who renew their mortgages in 2026 will be facing a payment shock. What this means is that as of February 2024, 76% of Canadians are in jeopardy of losing their homes. After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, many Canadians are now facing the very real fact they will be losing their homes. These Liberals are just not worth the cost. Will the Liberals commit today to stopping their inflationary spending, to drive down interest rates, to make housing affordable, so that Canadians can keep their homes?
76% of people losing their homes. You gotta wonder if they're in power at that moment and people losing their homes, that's like 25 million people pissed at the government because their stupid policies. Do the Liberals not realize what kind of danger that puts them in? The problem with this is Pierre Poilievre will be in power when that happens, but not for long enough to fix the problems. So a lot of people have speculated that he will take part of the blame for that happening because he will be the one in power, and I'm sure he'll work very quickly to axe a tax and change a bunch of things, but it will take some time to fix all this garbage that the Liberals have done to us.
Mr. Speaker, as we have been making clear throughout question period, the only thing the Conservatives want to do is cut, and actually put taxes back on home builders. But when it comes to fiscal policy, Mr. Speaker, let me quote the Parliamentary Budget Officer speaking last week in the other place. Canada compares rather favorably on a debt to GDP ratio when compared to G7 countries. We are probably the least or second least indebted country. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are absolutely wrong about everything, including fiscal policy.
That debt to GDP ratio garbage. They've included the Canada Pension Plan as part of the GDP to prop it up, which other countries don't do. So it's not a fair comparison. Thus, it props Canada up, which if you compare it apples to apples, we are at the bottom. They keep lying to us over and over. The problem is the average person who watches a clip here or there, they don't know this. They don't get that Freeland is just lying over and over. Trudeau's lying over and over. Wilkinson, Bolsonaro, Guilbeault, Sean Fraser.
Well, in the next election, we'll let Canadians decide exactly who is wrong. And if you listen to these Liberals talk about this, you would think they never had it so good. The truth, it couldn't be any further. The fact is we have tent cities from coast to coast. We have students who are living underneath bridges. We have workers who are living in their cars. You know what? If these Liberals won't listen to Canadians, if they won't listen to Conservatives, listen to your own regulators. Stop the spending, drive down costs, so Canadians can keep their homes.
They don't care about that. They care about getting rich. That's what their whole plan is here, is to squeeze us for the money and to get rich. That's all they're doing. Jumping over to my group now, let's see what memes we have today. Enemy of the people. Yep, he is. Remember, I see everything you post. Yeah. Ugh. Forget Jake Paul. Can we have this matchup, please? That would be epic, especially young Tyson. Oh, I would love to see that. This is an interesting post here by an anonymous participant. We all know the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are everything opposite they say they are. Well, good to know that it's on Canada's website that they're working towards the same 2030 agenda as the WEF. So we've got this here and this here. 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I mean, it's Klaus Schwab. Justin Trudeau is one of his little proteges. He's penetrated the cabinet. Why does the working class, the larger of the two classes, not simply eat the rich? I don't think the working class knows how to. I sure wish they would do something about the cost of living. Best we can do is tampons in men's bathrooms. This is an apple. If you see a banana, you're a right-wing extremist. Yeah. Remember, you can't use reason and logic with people that don't know the difference between a boy and a girl. If the world was a Monopoly game, we'd be at the part where everyone rage quits because all the property is gone, rent is unaffordable, and one rich guy is ruining everyone's fun. Yeah. He's got hotels on Park Place and Boardwalk and all these light blue ones, and you have to go past Go and hope you don't land on any of this stuff. The government, my paycheck, me, cost of living. If Weak Men Create Hard Times was a poster, yeah, that... Thank goodness. Thank you, Parks Canada. Free admission for newcomers to Canada. That's where I wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this. The supply and confidence agreement is going to protect Fergus. The NDP are going to protect Fergus, and so are the Liberals. So unless Fergus goes completely off the rails and like insults Trudeau, he's not going anywhere, right? He's just going to keep licking Trudeau's boots, you know, shining them up every morning for him and doing Trudeau's bidding. Whatever he wants, any sort of squeegee Luigi's, he'll give it to him. Fergus is a proven diehard Liberal. It's not like there's a couple of them that are kind of on the fence a little bit. You can tell they're with the party, but they don't agree with Trudeau, but they're still going along with it. Fergus is not one of them. He is diehard with Trudeau. So as this goes on further and further, really the story is about Jagmeet here. We already know Trudeau's corrupt and all his den of thieves is corrupt, but Jagmeet can end this tomorrow if he wanted to. And it's a play of greed. One man's greed is ruining the lives of millions of people. We need some serious reform in this country. Thanks for watching the end of the video here. I greatly appreciate all of you. Be sure to subscribe and hit the thumbs up. Ring that notification bell if you want to get notified of all my videos. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit different, maybe to cool down a little bit, I just uploaded a hiking video with my buddy, just me and my buddy and his two dogs, going out deep into the Vancouver Island backcountry. So this road had a whole bunch of culverts and we were able to get all the way up here. So we got the Danger Ranger here. So if that interests you, I'll link that up right here. Be sure to subscribe. We'll keep fighting for freedom and I'll see you guys in the next one.